Hello students, it's me Teacher C and welcome to another English lesson. Today we're going to talk about subordinating conjunctions. Let's start. Let us take a look at these two words that we'll be encountering in this lesson. The first one is the independent clause and the second one is a dependent clause. The independent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. It makes sense on its own as a sentence and it can stand alone. The dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. It doesn't make sense on its own as a sentence and it cannot stand alone. For example of independent clause is Jane ate pasta and Sam went to the park. For example of dependent clause, because she was hungry and after he finished school. Another words that we will encounter in this lesson is clause and phrase. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. And a phrase is a group of words without subject-verb component. Subordinating conjunctions form sentences into word clusters. We call them subordinate or dependent clauses. Dependent because they depend on the main clause or the independent clauses, which serves as part of our sentences. Dependent clauses or main clause, dependent clauses or our subordinate clause cannot stand alone and must be connected to an independent or main clause in order to form a complex sentence. Example: everyone was relieved when the final exam was over. In this sentence, the word when is our subordinating conjunction. The clause when the final exam was over is the dependent clause or the subordinate clause. Subordinate clause, just like an independent clause, also has a subject and a verb. But unlike the independent or the main clause, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. Subordinate clauses begin with certain words or short phrases, sometimes called subordinating words. Sometimes they are called dependent words, subordinating or subordinate conjunctions. So there are many ways on how to call them. Let's look at the sentence. Everywhere I go, you always seem to be nearby. Let's try to understand this part by part. Dependent clauses add details to the independent clause and emphasize the idea in the independent clause. They also cannot stand alone because they don't convey a complete thought or idea. They depend on the independent clause. Sentences like the example here below can be arranged with either independent clause or dependent clause coming first, and comma usage is determined by this order. So since in this sentence, our subordinate clause is the beginning of the sentence, we use the comma to separate our dependent and our independent clause. The dependent clause appears at the start just like this. The start of the sentence, it will need to be followed by a comma. However, if our dependent clause cannot be seen at the start of the sentence, there is no need for you to use the comma. So in this case, if the house is the independent or the main clause, where I grew up is the dependent or the subordinate clause. And in the example, everywhere I go, this is our dependent clause or subordinate clause. And you always seem to be nearby is our independent clause or our main clause. Let us always remember the clause begins with a subordinating conjunction. That clause is a subordinate clause and cannot stand alone as a sentence. Let's take a look at different examples of subordinating conjunctions. There are quite a few examples here in our slides, but there are a lot more subordinating conjunctions that we can use in our sentences. For example, after, although, as if, as long as, because, before, even if, even though, ever since, if, in order that, provided that, since, so that, than, that, though, unless, until, what, whatever, when, whenever, whereas, whenever, and whether. Let's practice. Choose the subordinating conjunction that makes the most sense for each sentence. Number 1. He didn't have lunch today, even though, because he was nervous for the audition. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. The correct answer is because. He didn't have lunch today because he was nervous for the audition. Number 2. Since, although, I got a bonus, we can go on vacation over break. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. The correct answer is since. Since I got a bonus, we can go on vacation over break. Number 3. Reading is my favorite subject, though, because I'm really good at math. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. The correct answer is though. Reading is my favorite subject, though I'm really good at math. Number 4. As soon as, before you play those video games, you need to clean your room. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. And the correct answer is before. Before you play those video games, you need to clean your room. Number 5. We'll need to pick up some tools unless, since you already have them. You have 10 seconds to choose the right answer. The correct answer is unless. We'll need to pick up some tools unless you already have them. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today. See you again next time. Bye-bye!